Yeah, because some of them will grow old after a period of time, and then some of them are young, and you've got to let them each sort of, if you always have the forest, right, of a different age.
Yeah, old growth forests are beautiful in their own way, but at the same time, for a renewable forest, it's not sustainable because then you basically have generations without harvest.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I got another question here for Pete. And this one too, I don't know, like, I think we need some education on hunting here, but like, what animals give the most profits, or do you do it for fun?
Well, that's a great question because you're not allowed to do it for any kind of profit. You're not allowed to sell the meat. You're not allowed to, to get any money from the hide, from the antlers, or anything like that. And that's that is really at the core of, I would say, the American hunting tradition that is in place right now. That you're not going to sell the meat to a restaurant. You're never going to be motivated by profit to do this. It's something that you do purely to, for subsistence, feeding yourself, and then, you can give the meat away as a gift to people, obviously as you please. But yeah, that was something that I think we made a decision as a society to institute these hunting rules, to preserve these wild places, to preserve these forests and these areas, and to make sure that they would be there for future generations. And that was, that's at the very core of the modern sportsman's ethics, is that you're never going to profit from this. It is just purely something that you do for subsistence and for enjoyment, for nourishment of the soul. That's how I would. Yeah, that's it.
I like that. From someone who's also had one of your venison burgers before, the meat is, I feel, not as environmentally impactful as, like, say, beef.
Much less. Much less.
It's a healthier for you. It's a leaner cut meat anyways, not much fat in it. And like, I think to myself, like, okay, the cost of like raising like a herd of cows versus like a deer that gets to run wild. So,
Yeah, our yard art costs a lot of money.
I realize as I'm saying this, like Stephanie and like Mark, you guys have like 2 pet cows,
But off from that same thing though, once the winter gets in full and it's deep snow and hard going, with the logging that we do, we actually feed the deer with the tops of the trees, and they will herd up and follow us around in the woods.
So when you cut a tree down, right, you take like the whole stalk of the tree is what goes off to the mill, and a lot of the whole head, the brush part of it, a lot of that you leave behind. They either burn it or it goes back, the nutrients goes into the soil and stuff, and you leave it behind. And when we make those piles, the deer are like in a candy store. Oh, there's tons of them. So it's pretty neat to show up first thing in the morning and you pull in the parking lot or something, because it'll take a month or 2 months or 3 months to do a project on 50 acres or something. And you pull in the morning and it just makes your heart go on. You'll see 20 deer hanging out going, oh, they're like, it's Christmas.
So really, deer that would have been possibly like starving to death, like come wintertime, it's like a good food source, really.
Yeah, exactly. The forestry definitely helps the wildlife as fully as much, as the deer and what nature gives.
All right, I got like a question. It almost feeds into this. It's like a softball because it's from Christian, one of my students. It says, "What are the benefits of logging?"
Yeah, that was definitely a nice shoe, and for sure, it does the wildlife. It does help the deer, but it is more for renewable resource. I definitely believe wood for firewood and for energy and for building is definitely done right, is a renewable resource.
And it's cool because all products made in America. Stephanie, you were going to say something.
Yeah, and that's like you hear about the clear cutting where they go in and destroy and take out the whole entire forest and people panic about it. Yeah, if you're doing it inappropriately and they trash the earth in that sense, yeah, it's not a good thing at all. If you take your time and effort, and it's not about just the income on that job, it's more about the planet and the earth and getting those trees to keep living and growing. They thrive, and then they keep reproducing more baby trees, and then it goes around in a positive circle.
I think it's pretty cool how we talk about it too, because there's always like, no matter what your profession is, whether you're a doctor, teacher, whether you're an arborist, logger, gardener, police officer, whatever, there's always like a right way to do it, and then like a way that's not so right.
Yeah,
So,
that bad apple in the bushel.
yeah, it just ruins everything.
It does.
Pete, I got a deep question for you. This is from a student of mine. Like, you'd really like this kid. His name is Nishan. I've had him for like a few years. He's just going good places. He's probably one of the best people I've met within the last 3 years. But he says, what do you get from killing animals if you don't eat them? You know, so I think it addresses more like the idea of hunting for like fun and not for like sustaining and like harvesting an animal and just giving back, you know?
Well, it's kind of a weird question because there's not many animals that you kill that you don't eat. You
Yeah.
pretty much eat, anything that you're hunting, you're pretty much going to eat it. Now there is the exception of the nuisance animal. There's things like groundhogs that I'm sure are edible, but never end up getting eaten. One thing I will say is that the forest wastes nothing, and the world wastes nothing, and that whatever it is that dies, something comes along and eats it, and the waste is a very much a human concept like that. So as a sportsman, you're really only taking prey animals that you're going to eat. The accomplishment, how hard it is to do that. I mean, that is a satisfaction that goes beyond feeding yourself. So you don't eat the antlers.
Yeah, I agree with you, Pete. There's definitely just a small window of a nuisance animal, and sometimes people build further into the woods, and yet you're encroaching on more of their habitat.
That's actually pretty much, I think when we look at stuff too, like for logging and for hunting, it's like, you guys are kind of like the big supporters of kind of keeping the forest the way it is. Cause it's like, you see a strip mall go up, and some people are like, oh, cool, new stores. You're like,
Yeah.
no, not cool. It's like, that's bad,
Yeah, we try to be the good guys.
No, I think as loggers and hunters, we have completely overlapping interests. Like what's good for a logger is good for a hunter. And so that means it's good for the deer. It's good for the animal. It's good for all those things. Good logging equals good hunting equals a healthy population, equals, being able to have a sustainable energy source and, source for our building materials. Absolutely essential. I would say logging and forestry and forest preservation, whether it is for recreation or hunting or for whatever reason, one of the greatest success stories that and greatest success stories of human cooperation and here in the Northeast, humans living with their environment, because we're growing. Our population is expanding all the time. So people like Mark who engage in these sustainable logging practices that that's the future. It's an untold story, and I'm glad these kids are asking these questions, because it's really about trying to preserve something as a resource, for the animals and for the green space, so it's there for generations. That's the goal.
We were learning about that with carrying capacity, like for the environment with like biodiversity. So like a carrying capacity is like how many an environment can sustain. And you're right, Pete, 'cause we were talking about like humankind's, like our population is going through the roof, and like how many humans can Mother Earth hold, you know? And yeah, the only reason we've been able to do it so far is just by using our brains and evolving and doing things more efficiently, you know, and just being better at stuff. So, all right. Questions for people, because like these guys are 12th graders and they're getting to the point where like in 6 months time, they're going to be out there, you know, in college or, you know, jobs looking for money and stuff. What's the outlook for like employment? Like what are some things for employment for like logging or gardening or like, even like with the tree business and stuff, you know, anything you'd say?
There's lots of cool college educations too you can get, like that you can go to, like what we have, VTech or whatever, Vermont Tech School and stuff, and they offer so many. And I know I'm sure there's tons of programs down there that offer so you can still get your college education, but you can definitely specifically pick what you want to do, from an engineer to a gardener to all kinds of, an acupuncturist or a massage therapist. I mean, you can do all kinds of traits that wouldn't be a basic 4-year education, and specifically get certified in those areas, which can really help your employment skills and stuff. And then more knowledge. Pete, you've done a couple of those courses, haven't you? Like,
Yeah. I took an ISA certification.
yeah.
And some professional education over the years out there as an arborist. That there's a lot in the green industry. I think as we become more mechanized, and I think larger percentages of our society become more reliant on some kind of digital technology, there's always going to be a call for somebody to help people interface with their environment, whether it's their backyard and their landscape and their flower beds, or their trees and their forest and the animals that live in there. I mean, having an understanding of that and being able is always going to be profitable. There's always going to be a need for that in society. And it's a job that has tremendous dignity, that's going to connect you to a lot of people and really, really, pursue the education angle in it too. But, you can get, as Stephanie was saying, a lot of independence. And I know Mark has a lot of independence in what he does too, in terms of calling your own shots and, not necessarily having to work for other people. So yeah, I think as an entrepreneur too, there's many opportunities in the green industry, I would say.
And you can start by doing like different jobs, right, Pete? Like, I mean, you could go out and get a job doing landscaping with somebody, or you could do tree trimming, or you could do, I don't know, paint houses, whichever you thought. And especially at a younger age, you can explore them, and then something will hit home to you and be like, I enjoy that. But one of the greatest benefits, I think, for all of us is we're outside all the time. Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, true.
You get to listen to your music too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
It's not like teaching. Like teaching, it's like, hey, if I want to listen to some tunes, got class going, can't do it,
Yeah.
Every job's got its benefits and drawbacks. Pete, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had a student like Adonis, who one of my favorite students, like he's got like energy, and so like he's like uber smart, and he's got that sort of like attack kind of mentality, and like I think it's kind of shows that there's multiple ways to succeed with like life, and just use the skills you have to harness it with your environment and make something out of it. So gives a lot of hope,
True.
Yep. All right, guys, I think that's good for our students. Any thing we want to close out with?
Oh man, just enjoy the outdoors.
Keep smiling.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
All
Enjoy the outdoors. Remember, all public land all of us are public landowners. I would say that. That's what I would say. So, you know, green industry and stuff, like there's a whole bunch of land as a taxpayer, as a citizen, that you own. And get out there and, and get your head in it and check it out, man, because there's some beautiful, beautiful wild places to go.
Amen.
I like it. All righty, guys. You know, thank you so much for your time.